Story begins with a man named Gilbert who had come to the court for hearing he had committed fraud in bank checks, due to which he was sentenced to 18 months in prison. Gilbert was imprisoned, but after only 6 months he escaped from the prison and crossed the border to Canada. After reaching Canada, he looked for a job selling ice cream, but before that he would have to show his identity card, but Gilbert did not have any such card, so he got disappointed and left from there. Then on the way he saw a beggar. Gilbert bought his identity card from that beggar in exchange for $2 from now on. His name became Robert, and he went and gave his ID to the ice cream seller. Then in the evening he reached a dharamshala where people coming from far off places were given a place to stay. After knocking the door many times, a girl named Andrea opened the door and Gilbert stayed there that night. Then the next morning he started selling ice cream and started earning money, but perhaps his luck was bad, because soon the ice cream company went bankrupt. Finally, to forget his sorrow, he went to a bar to drink alcohol. The owner of this bar was a gangster named Tommy, who was also being searched by the police, but the police did not have any solid evidence against him, so they were not able to arrest him. Well, while coming out, Gilbert bumped into a policeman named Sins. Sins had come here to spy on Tommy. Meanwhile, Gilbert returned home and soon asked Andrea out for a date. Love blossomed between them, and then they started living together. One day when he returned home, he read in the newspaper that the American government was trying very hard to find him. Gilbert got a little scared and decided to tell Andrea the truth. Andrea was in the washroom and suddenly her face lit up. Actually, she was going to be the mother of Gilbert's child. She wanted to go out and give Gilbert the good news, but before that Gilbert told her that he was going out for a few days in connection with business. Soon Gilbert reached Vancouver to deceive the police. There he again started looking for a job, but no one was ready to give him a job. Then suddenly on the road he saw 2 men taking out money from a truck and taking it to the bank. This light lit up in his mind, and soon he also got the news of Andrea being pregnant, but this made his intention even more firm. Now Gilbert immediately went to the bank. He entered the bank and looked around carefully and observed everything. After this he entered a shop and started buying some disguise clothes by introducing himself as an actor. In a short while he entered the bank disguised as a security guard and met the bank manager and started checking the security there. After this he also went to the camera server room and collected all the information. He also learned the art of changing the face with silicone skin and stole a silicone nose from there. Finally, on the day of the robbery, he reached the bank in disguise to commit his first robbery. He went to Jessica's table and gave her a paper on which was written that "do not shout." Then he showed Jessica the gun hidden in his pocket and shot her. She ordered to take out all the money. Jessica gave him all the money with fear, but now Gilbert did not have a place to keep this money. Then Jessica put the money in her purse and gave it to him. Meanwhile, Gilbert's fake nose started coming off, which was about to expose him, but he stuck it as soon as he got a chance. Finally, when the work was done, he returned the clothes to the shop and kept all the money in a suitcase. After this he immediately reached the airport, but here a new problem arose. He saw that if his suitcase is x-rayed, his money will be caught. He somehow hid some money in his underwear and reached the checking area, but then he came to know that x-ray checking is not done in domestic flights. Well, when he reached home, Andrea was waiting for him with open eyes. He reached his new house, which Gilbert had bought some time back, but this time also he did not tell Andrea about his truth. He lied that he was going to his new home while Gilbert was managing the family business. On the other hand, the police started investigating the theft. Detective Hoffman felt that gangster Tommy was behind this theft. Then Cinders asked the police commander for permission to arrest Tommy, but still they did not have any concrete evidence, so Sins had to investigate and find out the truth himself. On the other hand, Gilbert needed more money to commit bigger thefts, so he went to meet Tommy in his bar. Pointing to the bank in front, he said that he could rob the bank within 3 minutes. If he succeeded in doing this, Tommy would give him a loan of $100 which Gilbert would have to repay in 5 months. Tommy agreed, and then Gilbert reached the bank. In a few moments he entered the bank disguised as a worker, and just 3 minutes later he took the money and entered the back door of the bar. Tommy was shocked to see him. Gradually, he started committing big thefts by changing his name. In this way, after the theft he would always flee to another city by domestic flight so that he would not be caught. This is why Gilbert became famous as the Flying Bandit. Till now he had looted about 36 banks, and soon he became so rich that he bought many expensive cars and watches. Apart from this, he kept the rest of the money in his safe. He started associating with the rich. When he paid off Tommy's debt, Tommy offered him to rob a jewelry store. On the other hand, Sanders was still trying his best to catch Tommy. He named this Operation Project Cafe. Now his team started monitoring every move of Tommy to see whom he meets. Sanders first made a plan to catch Tommy's special goons Bishop and Dave. He also had Gilbert's photos, but he did not know who he was. Gilbert was at his home when Andrea suddenly came into his room. Gilbert had scattered a lot of money on the bed. Andrea asked him where did he get so much money from. Then Gilbert told her the truth, that he had robbed a bank, but Andrea asked him to prove that he had not harmed anyone. Then next morning Gilbert took Andrea with him and robbed the bank in front of her. Andrea was also stunned to see his ability. Within few moments Gilbert brought the looted money and handed it over to Andrea. Finally, after returning home, Andrea asked him to promise that he will not get caught and will leave this job after some time. On the other hand, we see Sins keeping an eye outside Tommy's bar. Then Gilbert came to meet Tommy, and both of them started planning to rob a jewelry store. Then Tommy ordered Bishop to stay with Gilbert during the robbery. After some time, when Gilbert went to the toilet, Sins followed him. He also warned Tommy that soon an arrest warrant will be issued against him. Then Sins saw Gilbert and became suspicious because Gilbert still had silicone on his face. Later Sins told everyone that Gilbert had silicone on his face. He called costume stores and investigated. Then suddenly at night Sanders got an emergency call from the police station. The police had caught a man driving after drinking alcohol. This man was none other than Tommy's special goon Dave. Finally he got Dave to reveal the whole truth about Gilbert. Dave told him that Gilbert had changed his identity and started living under the name of Robert, and the Flying Bandit was none other than him. Then Dave revealed that Gilbert was preparing for a big robbery. On getting this information, Sanders immediately reached the location of the robbery. Now he was very eager to solve this case. First of all, Sanders interrogated the shopkeeper from where Gilbert used to buy clothes for disguise. Then he also informed the local police that a robbery was going to take place in the city today. He posted policemen outside all the banks in the city. On the other hand, Gilbert and Bishop were busy in their work disguised as camera repairmen, and they did not even realize that many people were going to commit a robbery. The police are keeping an eye on him. Soon Gilbert went to the jewelry store and asked the shopkeeper to put all the jewelry in a bag. Bishop was keeping an eye on the door when he suddenly saw Sins coming. Now they immediately ran away from there and somehow escaped from the eyes of the police, but unfortunately Bishop's weapon was left in the store. The police were still chasing them, but the uniform they were wearing was also worn by many other people, due to which the police could not identify the real thieves. But Sins was no less clever. He suddenly rang the fire alarm, due to which all the people in the mall got scared and ran away. Then he recognized Gilbert and Bishop and sent his men after them, but in the end both of them managed to escape by dodging Sins. Later Gilbert called Andrea and asked her to pack all the stuff because he was going to leave from here today itself. Bishop came back to Tommy's bar. When Gilbert reached home, he saw that Andrea had started having stomach pains and that their baby could be born any time now. Without wasting time, Gilbert took her to the hospital where Andrea gave birth to a boy. On the other hand, the police raided Gilbert's house, but no one was living there. Actually, Gilbert had cleverly started living in another house with the help of Tommy. Then the police started investigating the weapon found in the shop. Gilbert was raising his child somewhere far away. Gilbert was very free these days, so Andrea got pregnant again after this. One day Tommy suddenly came to meet Gilbert. He asked Gilbert about the future plan because he wanted Gilbert to steal again, but Gilbert refused to do so. After Tommy left, he saw the money he had saved. His money was almost over, but still Andrea did not allow him to steal again. But the next morning when Andrea was sleeping, Gilbert wrote his address in a letter and left the house. When Andrea woke up, she realized that Gilbert had left. Then the phone rang. When Andrea picked up the phone, Sins told her, asked for Gilbert's address. Andrea said that he was not at home. Then Sins called all the airports and inquired, but to no avail. Then coincidentally he saw an advertisement of another airline in the newspaper which they had missed. Now his team immediately started investigating the flight of that airline. Meanwhile, Gilbert was preparing his plan in a hotel room when suddenly he got a call from Andrea. Gilbert lied once again and asked Andrea to come to the airport at 5 p.m. After this, he disguised himself as before and robbed the bank and came out with his bag full. Then he saw that many people dressed like him were present in the bank. Due to this, the police arrested someone else and Gilbert took advantage of the situation and came out. He called a taxi, but there was no taxi there. Actually, the police had sent all the taxis to another area. Then Gilbert saw a car on sale and he bought it and left. Soon after, Sins reached the bank and showed Gilbert's picture to everyone. Then a policeman said that he had seen Gilbert running away in the car. Gilbert went ahead after getting checked at the airport, but by then the news of Gilbert's escape had reached the airport. The airport people immediately informed Sins, and Sins asked him to stop Gilbert's flight, but Hoffman said that it would be better if they catch him as soon as the flight lands. After this, both of them started chasing Gilbert in a helicopter. When Gilbert came out of the flight, Andrea came to pick him up. Suddenly, police vehicles surrounded them from all sides. Soon Gilbert was arrested and Sins interrogated him. Andrea was very angry with Gilbert because he committed the theft despite being forbidden. And when she came to know that she did not even know Gilbert's real name, she divorced him. Tommy later came to meet Gilbert and said that he was the one who had testified against Gilbert to the police. Eventually, Gilbert was sentenced to 20 years in prison for robbing 59 bags. So did Gilbert get the right punishment, or were you thinking till the end that he should escape?